My girlfriend cried. I kissed my ex. It was a moment of weakness and I regret it so much. Please forgive me. I said, everyone makes mistakes. Then I showed her the non-refundable plane tickets to Paris I had bought to propose to her on her birthday next month, and then I lit them on fire in front of her. My whole life pretty much ended last Tuesday. Sounds dramatic, I know, but that's the only way to describe it. It happened when my girlfriend of 2 years, Maya, sat me down for a talk. She had the whole performance ready. Her voice was shaking, she had tears in her eyes, and she could barely look at me. She told me she had done something terrible, and that she had to be honest with me. Apparently, she had gone out for drinks with friends the weekend before, and her ex-boyfriend, Liam, just so happened to show up at the same bar. They got to talking, one thing led to another, and well, you can guess the rest. She grabbed my hand, squeezing it tight, and the waterworks started. I kissed my ex, she cried. It was a moment of weakness, and I regret it so much. Please forgive me. She looked up at me, expecting a reaction. She was ready for me to get angry, to yell, maybe even to break something. She was prepared for a fight, because a fight is something you can manage. She was not prepared for what she got instead. I just looked at her, my face completely blank, and said, everyone makes mistakes. The relief that washed over her was disgusting. It was so obvious. She thought that was it, that she had successfully navigated the storm. She thought my forgiveness was that easy to get. I stood up and went to my desk in the corner of the living room. I told her that her timing was really something. I had been planning a surprise for her birthday next month. From the top drawer, I pulled out a thick envelope from a high-end travel agency. I opened it and laid the documents on the coffee table. 2 non-refundable, first-class plane tickets to Paris. A printed confirmation for a 7-night stay in a suite at one of the best hotels in the city. A list of dinner reservations at restaurants she'd spent months dreaming about out loud. Her jaw dropped. Paris was her ultimate fantasy. Then I reached into my coat pocket and pulled out the small velvet ring box. I didn't even have to open it. I just placed it on top of the tickets. Her confession, her whole sob story about her moment of weakness, just died in her throat. She was staring at a very real, very expensive picture of the future she thought she had locked down, the future she was willing to risk for a kiss with her ex. She started to say my name, her voice all shaky, but I just held up my hand to stop her. I walked over to the fireplace, picked up the long-stemmed lighter from the mantel, and returned to the coffee table. I looked her right in the eye, then picked up the plane tickets. I sparked the lighter and set them on fire. I held the burning paper for as long as I could stand the heat, the flames turning our future into black, curling ash, before I dropped them into the empty fireplace. She just sat there, frozen, her mouth hanging open. The fake tears were gone, replaced by a look of pure, horrified shock. The only sound in the room was the last of the paper turning to smoke. Let me set the record straight about who I am. I'm not a doormat. I own an engineering firm I built from the ground up, and my job is to solve complex problems with logic and precision. I don't have time for drama or games. My father taught me 2 things. A man is only as good as his word, and you set your boundaries and you enforce them. No exceptions. When Maya and I got serious, I was upfront about my deal breakers. The biggest one was exes. They are out of the picture, period. No friendship, no catching up, nothing. She told me she felt the same way, that she hated men who were insecure, and that my strength was what attracted her to me. She was a great actress. For 2 years, she played the role of the perfect partner. Liam was the one topic that always felt a little off. He was her college boyfriend, a musician who she claimed was a classic case of a guy who refused to grow up. She painted him as this charming but ultimately flaky artist who broke her heart. She used him as the perfect foil to me, the stable, successful man she had been waiting for. It was a good story, and I bought it. I now realize she wasn't telling me a story about her past. She was establishing a cover for her future. The truth is, her confession wasn't a total shock. I'm an engineer. I notice when the numbers don't add up, when the structural integrity of something is compromised. For the last few months, the integrity of our relationship had felt shaky. She was always on her phone, smiling at texts she would quickly hide if I walked into the room, Her girls' nights became more frequent, and she was always vague about the details. The first real alarm bell was a month ago. A good friend of mine, Kevin, called me. He sounded really awkward. He told me he was at a music festival a few hours out of town for the weekend, and he saw Maya there. She was with some guy, and Kevin said they were all over each other, holding hands, the whole deal. He said he wouldn't have called, but he saw them again the next day, and it was clear they were there together as a couple. When I confronted Maya about it, she didn't just deny it, she went on the offensive. She produced a series of texts with her friend Tara, talking about their girls' weekend at the festival. She said they ran into Tara's cousin, a guy she'd never met, and that I was being ridiculously paranoid. She cried, accused me of not trusting her, and made me feel like I was the crazy one. I backed down, but the doubt was planted. Her story was too neat, too rehearsed. That's when I decided I needed undeniable proof. I did something I'm not proud of, but I felt like I had no other choice. I bought a small GPS tracker and placed it in the car she drove, which was in my name. I felt like a stalker, but my gut was screaming that I was being played. For the next 2 weeks, I watched. The data was damning. There were multiple trips to a bar across town where I knew Liam's band had a regular gig. There were stops at a park near his apartment in the middle of the day, when she was supposed to be at a freelance work meeting. Her moment of weakness wasn't a one-time mistake. It was her regular routine. Her tearful confession was just a calculated move. She must have sensed that I was getting suspicious, and she tried to get out in front of the story with a smaller, more forgivable lie. So, sitting there in the living room with the smoke from the burning tickets hanging in the air, I wasn't just reacting to a kiss. I was reacting to a mountain of lies. She finally found her voice and started screaming. She called me a psycho, said I was destroying our future over one stupid mistake. I let her rant for a minute, then I calmly held up my phone. I showed her the map from the GPS tracker with the dozens of little red dots marking her secret trips. It wasn't a kiss, Maya, I said. It was a second life. The color drained from her face. All the fight, all the righteous anger, just vanished. I told her to pack a bag and be out of my house by the time I got back from the gym. She was still there when I got home, of course. She had moved into the guest room and locked the door. She thought she could just wait me out. She underestimated me. The next morning, I made the calls. My lawyer, Mark, had a formal 30-day eviction notice couriered to the house by noon. I went to my bank, pulled my money out of our joint accounts, and moved it to a new account at a different institution. I called the credit card companies and had her removed as an authorized user. I went through our shared online world and methodically erased her, changing passwords and deleting her access to everything from streaming services to our shared photo album. The real breakthrough, the one that turned this from a simple story of cheating into something else entirely, came from my own work. As an engineer, I deal with invoices, statements, and financial records all day. I'm meticulous. While preparing to fully separate our finances, I started going through our joint household account statements with a fine-tooth comb. I noticed a pattern of strange small overpayments to a utility company. They weren't huge, maybe $50 or $100 extra each month, but they were consistent. When I called the utility company, they had no record of these overpayments. The money was going somewhere else. I cross-referenced the transaction codes with my bank and discovered they were payments to a credit card I'd never heard of. I knew this was a dead end without more information. But then I got lucky. A few days into our in-house Cold War, a letter arrived addressed to Maya from a bank she didn't use. I would have ignored it, but it was marked Second Notice, Urgent. On the off chance it was a debt collector that could legally come after joint assets, I opened it. It was a credit card statement. And it was a gold mine. The card was in her name only, with a massive credit limit. The statement was pages long, filled with charges for designer clothes, spa treatments, and expensive restaurants I'd never been to. Her spending was completely out of sync with her salary. At the bottom of the statement was the payment information. The majority of the monthly bill was being paid via direct debit from an account at a different bank. The account was held by a numbered corporation. This was the real secret. Liam was a distraction. This was the business. As an engineer who has set up corporations, I knew that even numbered companies have to be registered. I spent a night digging through public business registries. It took hours, but I found it. The corporation was a holding company registered to one person, Marcus Thorne, a wealthy, twice-divorced property developer in his late 60s, known for his flashy lifestyle and his taste for younger women. Maya wasn't just cheating. She was living a fully funded double life. This discovery changed the entire game. My proposal, our future, it was all just one part of her diverse portfolio of men. I hired a private investigator not to find out if she was cheating, but to get visual confirmation of her relationship with Thorne. The PI, a no-nonsense ex-cop, had photos for me within 3 days. It was them having an intimate lunch at a 5-star hotel. The PI's report included the detail that Thorne paid the bill with the same corporate credit card that was paying Maya's secret card. The circle was complete. The 30-day eviction period was a masterclass in manipulation. Maya tried everything. She sent her best friend Tara over to plead her case. Tara came in hot, calling me controlling and abusive for tracking her car. I calmly laid out the photos of Maya with Marcus Thorne on the coffee table. I asked Tara if she was aware that her friend was taking money from a rich old man while living with me. Tara just stared at the photos, her jaw slack. She left without another word. Next, Maya sent her parents. They showed unannounced, trying to play the concerned family card. They talked about forgiveness and second chances. I asked them if they had ever met Marcus Thorne. The way they both flinched told me everything. They knew. They had known all along and had been complicit in their daughter's scheme. I told them to get out of my house before I called the police for trespassing. The most satisfying part of the whole ordeal happened about a week before she was supposed to move out. A delivery from a high-end electronics store arrived. It was a brand-new, top-of-the-line laptop. The gift receipt was inside. It was from Marcus, wishing her a happy early birthday. I signed for it. When Maya got home that evening, I handed her the box. "Looks like your retirement plan is still making deposits," I said. The look of pure, unadulterated panic on her face as she realized that I knew everything was better than any apology could ever be. There was nowhere left to run, no lies left to tell. The day she moved out was bleak and quiet. She had called Liam for help, but he, predictably, was suddenly too busy. She had called her parents, but they refused to get involved any further. She had to hire a couple of guys off a moving app to haul her mountain of designer clothes and shoes out of my house. She was completely, utterly alone. As she was about to walk out the door, for the last time, she turned to me. "I hope this makes you happy," she said, her voice dripping with venom. "You've ruined my life." I just looked at her and said, "I didn't do anything. I just stopped paying for your life. There's a difference." The final step was ensuring a clean break. My lawyer, Mark, sent 2 letters. The first was to Marcus Thorne. It was professional and to the point. It outlined Maya's fraudulent behavior, including the fact that she was living with me while taking his money. We included copies of the PI's photos and the relevant bank statements. We made no demands, simply presented the facts. The second letter was to Liam. This one was a bit more direct. We included a bill for the private investigator, as his actions were a direct cause of the expenses incurred. We also included the GPS data and a friendly reminder that interfering in a domestic partnership can have unforeseen consequences. I never heard back from Liam, but I did hear through the grapevine that his band was mysteriously dropped from their regular Tuesday night gig a week later. The bar owner was a business associate of one of my firm's biggest clients. I may have mentioned the situation in passing. Coincidence, I'm sure. As for Marcus Thorne, his reaction was more decisive. A week after he received our letter, I got an alert from a credit monitoring service. Maya's secret credit card, the one he had been paying, was canceled. Her main source of income was gone. The last I heard, Maya is living in a tiny apartment she can barely afford, drowning in debt. She tried to create a social media campaign about her abusive ex, but when a few anonymous accounts started posting the photos of her with Marcus Thorne in the comments, she deleted her profiles. The revenge wasn't the fire in the fireplace. That was just the overture. The real revenge was the methodical, logical dismantling of her entire fraudulent life and leaving her to deal with the consequences all by herself. I sold the ring, and I'm taking my sister to Paris. Turns out non-refundable tickets can sometimes be exchanged. Who knew?